Charles Kuralt was the man millions trusted every Sunday morning, a gentle voice guiding them through the quiet beauty of America's back roads. Yet behind that calm and familiar presence was a secret life that no one saw coming, a life he carefully built for nearly 3 decades while his family remained unaware. From Montana cabins to private letters, he nurtured another family in plain sight, hiding the truth until the day he died. What drove this celebrated journalist to live in 2 worlds at once, and how did he manage to keep the deception hidden for so long? The story of Charles Kuralt is as heartbreaking as it is extraordinary. Roots and early talent. Charles Kuralt was born on September 10, 1934, on a tobacco farm in North Carolina, a modest and isolated environment where the comforts of electricity and indoor plumbing were non-existent. Water came from an outdoor pump, and heat was provided by wood stoves that filled the house with smoke and warmth in equal measure. Life on the farm was harsh and unrelenting, yet it instilled in young Charles a deep sense of resourcefulness and an acute awareness of the small human details that often escape notice. He found joy and creativity in the simplest things, fashioning kites from old newspapers and flour paste, carving slingshots from dogwood branches, and experimenting with fly traps and homemade toys. Summers were long, scorching, and laborious, spent tying tobacco leaves to wooden sticks and helping prepare them for the barns, yet these grueling tasks gave him an understanding of work, patience, and the rhythm of rural life. Beyond these physical challenges, Kuralt developed an early sensitivity to social injustice. Growing up in the segregated South, he attended all-white schools, yet he could not ignore the systemic inequalities around him. He witnessed violent acts by local police, read the stories of African Americans in the black newspapers, and saw firsthand how his father's work as a social services officer exposed him to the hardships of marginalized communities. These early experiences planted the seeds of empathy that would later define his journalism, shaping a young man who could recognize dignity, courage, and humanity in those often overlooked by mainstream society. By the age of 14, Kuralt's natural talent for storytelling and communication had already begun to emerge. He announced minor league baseball games and hosted a music program on Charlotte radio, captivating audiences with a voice that was calm, precise, and inviting, making every listener feel as if he were speaking directly to them. That same year, he won the prestigious National Voice of Democracy contest, earning a scholarship and the extraordinary opportunity to deliver his winning speech at Colonial Williamsburg, standing on the very spot where Patrick Henry once thundered, "If this be treason, make the most of it." Even as a teenager, Kuralt demonstrated the rare ability to combine historical awareness, persuasive rhetoric, and heartfelt storytelling, qualities that would define his career. His teenage years were a delicate balance of labor, learning, and ambition. Summers continued on his grandparents' tobacco farm in Enslow County, instilling discipline and a strong work ethic, while the school year offered intellectual stimulation and social engagement. At Central High School, he excelled academically and creatively, editing the school newspaper, winning local writing competitions, and earning the respect of teachers and classmates alike. In 1951, his peers voted him most likely to succeed, an acknowledgement of both his talent and his determination. These formative experiences, from the dusty roads and barns of rural North Carolina to the classrooms and radio booths of Charlotte, shaped not only the journalist Kuralt would become, but also the complexity of character that allowed him to live a public life of warmth and a private life of secrecy. Every kite flown, every tobacco leaf tied, and every story written in those years laid the foundation for a man who would capture the heart of a nation while carrying the weight of a hidden world. Rising through CBS and facing hardships. In 1957, at just 23 years old, Charles Kuralt achieved what many young journalists only dreamed of. He was hired by CBS News, becoming the network's youngest correspondent in its history. For a young man who had grown up on a North Carolina tobacco farm, the move to New York City was both exhilarating and intimidating. The city was a whirlwind of ambition, deadlines, and high expectations, a world far removed from the dusty roads and quiet barns of his childhood. Kuralt found a mentor in Edward R. Murrow, whose guidance shaped him not only in the technical skills of reporting, but also in understanding the profound responsibility carried by anyone with a microphone. It was under Murrow's influence that Kuralt honed the clarity, precision, and empathetic tone that would later define his storytelling. Within just a few years, Kuralt was reporting on events that would resonate across the nation. He covered the Kennedy-Nixon debates, bringing viewers into the tension-filled rooms where history was unfolding, capturing not only facts, but also the subtle human drama behind politics. As CBS's chief Latin American correspondent, he traversed 23 countries, reporting from the front lines during the Cuban Missile Crisis, a tense and dangerous assignment that tested both his composure and judgment. His work required not only journalistic skill, but also the courage to navigate environments where missteps could have severe consequences. The dangers he faced were very real. In Vietnam, Kuralt witnessed the fragility of life firsthand. During one ambush, half of the unit he accompanied was killed. Yet he returned with a remarkable calm and professionalism, conveying the human stories amid chaos rather than sensationalizing the violence. Back in the United States, he chronicled civil rights marches in Selma, observing firsthand the entrenched injustices that African Americans endured, and translating these experiences into reporting that gave a voice to those often ignored. Kuralt's focus was consistently on the individuals, the courage, struggle, and quiet perseverance of ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. Despite these successes, the relentless pace of breaking news and the pressure to be first began to take a toll. Constant travel, high-stakes assignments, and exposure to trauma left Kuralt exhausted and yearning for a different approach to storytelling. By the mid-1960s, he reached a professional crossroads. The prestige of working for CBS was undeniable, yet he longed for depth over speed, for stories that celebrated the ordinary rather than chasing headlines. From this desire emerged a radical idea: to travel America's back roads for months at a time with no assigned stories, capturing the simple truths and human moments that mainstream reporting often overlooked. This bold vision would not only redefine television journalism, but also, inadvertently, provide the perfect mobility and cover for the secret life he would later lead with Patricia Shannon, a dual existence that few could have imagined. On the road and crafting a trusted persona. In the fall of 1967, Charles Kuralt embarked on what would become the defining chapter of his career: On the Road. Exhausted by the competitive frenzy of mainstream reporting, he proposed a daring experiment to CBS, 3 months traveling America's back roads with no fixed assignments, searching for stories that revealed the human side of the nation. The network agreed, albeit cautiously and under the condition that costs remained low. What began as a modest journey in a rented motorhome, stocked with nothing more than beer, soda, peanut butter, and crackers, evolved into a transformative odyssey spanning over 1 million miles and hundreds of segments. Kuralt's approach was simple but revolutionary. Rather than focusing on scandal or spectacle, he sought ordinary lives filled with quiet courage and overlooked beauty. He chronicled a Vermont couple making maple syrup, a 99-year-old bricklayer still at work in Iowa, hobos riding freight trains across California, and even a house constructed entirely of beer bottles. Each story, only a few minutes long, offered a pause from the turmoil of a country embroiled in Vietnam, civil unrest, and political upheaval. These 2-minute ceasefires, as viewers affectionately called them, celebrated small acts of resilience and kindness, making Kuralt a comforting and reliable presence in American living rooms. The intimacy of his reporting created a persona that audiences trusted implicitly. He spoke in a voice that conveyed empathy without condescension, observing without judgment, and connecting deeply with his subjects. Over time, Kuralt's on-the-road segments became more than human interest stories. They were lessons in listening, understanding, and honoring the lives of people often ignored by mainstream media. His growing fame as a gentle storyteller also served a practical purpose. The credibility and respect he commanded allowed him extraordinary freedom in his professional and personal life. While viewers saw a man devoted to his work and family, this very reputation provided cover for a secret that would remain hidden for nearly 3 decades. Kuralt's meticulous attention to detail, his empathy, and his relentless travel schedule created a perfect facade, one that enabled him to nurture a second family far from the eyes of the public, a double life few could have imagined. The Secret Life with Patricia Shannon. While America saw Charles Kuralt as the devoted husband to Suzanne Patty Baird, few could have imagined that behind this carefully maintained public image, he was building an entirely separate life. In the summer of 1968, during a trip to Reno, he met Patricia Shannon, a divorced mother of 3, known for her community work. Their connection was immediate. Kuralt arrived with 3 dozen roses and spent the night talking, laughing, and sharing confidences in a motel lounge. What began as a brief encounter quickly became a decades-long affair, one that he meticulously concealed while simultaneously nurturing his television career. By 1969, Kuralt had discreetly helped Patricia finalize her divorce, relocated her and her children to Colorado, and began sending her substantial financial support, totaling over $600,000 over the years, equivalent to more than $4 million today. He purchased homes for her in San Francisco and Ireland, financed her landscaping business, and paid college tuition for her children. Beyond financial support, he became a surrogate father figure, giving guidance, gifts, and attending family milestones, all while maintaining the appearance of a dedicated husband in New York. Kuralt's extensive travel for On the Road provided the perfect cover. Weeks spent driving across the country in motorhomes looked to colleagues and his wife like diligent field work. Long absences, irregular schedules, and demanding assignments allowed him the freedom to nurture this second family without suspicion. He even built a secluded cabin and writing studio on 20 acres along Montana's Big Hole River, a hidden retreat where he could spend weeks at a time with Patricia and her children. Letters signed as Pop, gifts for birthdays and holidays, and thoughtful gestures created the illusion of a lifelong commitment. This secret life required careful planning and unwavering attention to detail. Kuralt leveraged the trust he had earned with colleagues, the deference of his network, and his own meticulous nature to ensure that the deception remained invisible. For nearly 30 years, he balanced 2 worlds, one of public admiration, filled with accolades, Peabody Awards, and millions of viewers, and one private, filled with intimate, unacknowledged devotion. The duality of his existence, success and secrecy, adoration and betrayal, would remain hidden until the day of his death, when a single letter would unravel the carefully constructed image he had cultivated for decades. Legacy, reflection, and the roads left behind. Charles Kuralt's life leaves us with a paradox. On one hand, he was the storyteller who reminded a nation of the beauty in ordinary lives, the maple syrup makers, the elderly bricklayers, the hobos riding freight trains, and the blind climbers tackling Mount McKinley. Through On the Road and CBS Sunday Morning, he offered viewers a lens of empathy, patience, and gentle observation during times of social unrest, war, and uncertainty. Millions found comfort in his calm voice, his subtle humor, and the way he captured the unnoticed heroism in everyday Americans. His work earned multiple Peabody Awards, cementing him as a figure of integrity and compassion in television journalism. Yet behind the camera, Kuralt lived a life few could have imagined. For nearly 30 years, he nurtured another family, built homes, paid tuitions, and spent holidays with children who were not his own. The meticulous care he devoted to this secret life contrasts sharply with the betrayal experienced by his wife and daughters, revealing a complexity that cannot be ignored. The duality of Kuralt's existence forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. That brilliance, kindness, and creativity can coexist with deception and moral compromise. His story raises questions not just about Kuralt, but about the nature of trust and the facades people maintain. Can we separate the value of his journalism from the consequences of his private choices? Should his ability to illuminate the lives of ordinary Americans outweigh the pain he caused in his personal relationships? For many, Kuralt's work remains a treasure, a reminder to notice the quiet heroism around us, while the revelations of his double life linger as a cautionary tale about secrecy, desire, and the consequences of living in parallel worlds. As we reflect on Kuralt's journey, we are left with one final question for you, the viewer. How do you reconcile the heroism he displayed on the screen with the hidden truths of his personal life? Could someone who brings so much comfort to others still be capable of profound deception? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that uncover the extraordinary and sometimes tragic truths behind the lives of those we think we know.